It's been a while since I've made a Valorant video, so here's one. The Nerd Street Gamers Winter Championship happened over last weekend and Luminosity won over Sentinels, a team that many had as top 3 teams in North America. While Luminosity as a whole played incredibly well, their standout player to me was Thief. This man won 10 clutches over the entire tournament, and while there were other players who won more, his clutch completion rate was top 5, only topped by Envy's Caboose at 40%. The crazy part though is that this man got more cold-blooded as the tournament continued and the stakes got higher. If you only include playoffs, he converted 50% of his clutch attempts, a whopping half of the 14 attempted, and it continues getting crazy. As in the finals against Sentinels, he won 5 out of 7, 71% of his clutch attempts. While sure, you can paint a picture with stats to say whatever you want to say, I tried to find every one of them. And yes, there are a decent amount of converted 1v1s, but there are almost just as many ridiculous, well-executed 1 versus 3s, including a triple OT closeout 1 versus 3 against NRG. If that doesn't tell you the man is cold-blooded, well, hopefully actually watching these does. Okay, so in this first clip, this is LG versus 2D, an elimination match. LG had just lost 0-2 to Team Xset, who they just previously last week and lost 0-2 in the semifinals against the same team. So they're kind of down bad. Right now, this is an opportunity for them to either move on in groups or they get completely eliminated. So they have to prove something. One thing I want you guys to do in this round is actually remember this for later, because you want to see the similarities to when they do end up playing Sentinels in the clutch that Thief hits in that one. Anyways, they can't really find anything on A. They've tried to take control of U-Haul. They almost do, but they can't really control much past the truck, so they have to make a TP play. And instantly, Moose dies. Thief is on his own, so he has to plant on this B site, and he can expect what's going on. He hears the one TP that's Reyna through Hookah, and he doesn't know it's Reyna yet, but other 2 should be coming through spawn. He knows that. And with the timing of the TP, these people are going to be after Hookah comes through. And the idea for him is going to be trying to isolate Reyna as best as he can, and then try to stop these guys from crossing so he can maintain the control in the position that he has, which is somewhat from a position of strength. So he knows potentially there's 2 Leers, instantly breaks them. He has to. That's the only thing he can do in those 1 versus 1. And then swings directly on the spot that they're going to be crossing out. The timing works out really nicely, and sure, they line up for him, but he has the composure to spray control that through. This comes right after he wins 2 versus 3 against these guys, so he's starting to feel himself in this match. Okay, so we're stepping back a bit here in the LG2D match. We're going back to the first half to watch 2 of the 1v3 attempts. And the reason I'm doing this is I want to see the structure of how he improved his clutching over time, and basically just saw the kinds of situations he put himself in. And we'll see 2 rounds in a row where he's so close to actually pulling off 2 1 versus 3s that were really nice. So one thing here is that they took B. Thief is flanked, and he's kind of controlled the fact that, okay, they're definitely all 3 long because he spotted into Hookah. There was nobody there. And now he flanks long, gets the information that they're not taking TP, that they are on this B site right now. And I think he probably could have calmed at least once he gets around. Well, maybe it's a little too early for him to call that they're definitely, flanking in through backhaul. But in any case, Aproto gets caught out by 2 of them, and Aproto is able to catch that information. They almost all 3 peek him, but in any case, we have Miller now throwing smokes and flashes. That makes it so that Thief has to wait for a second to see if this player is going to come through back into elbow, or if they're all going to come out of spawn or go through A, which is always a possibility. And we'll see that later from Thief, actually. So they swing out of spawn, and Thief puts 1 down. Instantly, he knows at this point that, yeah, they're probably trying to come plan on B, but because he gets this next kill here onto Miller, he realized, oh, he's running away. They actually want to call the audible and go A, and the fact that he's running like this makes it seem that the other guy's already gone and he potentially has Spike. He's not able to see it, unfortunately. But in any case, he loses this to, in my mind, overconfidence. Kind of getting a little too greedy there, pulling out his knife, trying to flash basically around the corner and spawn to see if the guy maybe waits for him to chase, but he already made the assumption that he was gone down A, and I think that's overconfidence, which, directly in the next round, we'll see a different story, actually. So right here, round after, and I think immediately he's feeling, oh man, I went too fast. I have to be more careful on these types of play. Another 1 versus 3 position, and this time it's all going to be like, yeah, sure, he's peeking out of spawn, but he's very careful about somebody pushing him elbow, trying not to give up information to the player coming hookah. That guy leaves, and I think Thief is able to make that read, at least that he's playing back enough, but he could still be in there, which is a reason why this clutch doesn't go his way, but still methodically clearing things. And I think that this maybe, you know, maybe this round is lost already. And I think Thief maybe also knows that. The thing, though, is that he corrects like both the overconfidence, going too fast in these clutch situations, and also going too slow later on in the playoffs. He knows the perfect timing to do anything, but this does mark the fact that he's able to hit these crazy shots on people clearing angles really, really nicely. Even though that's a 2 versus 1 right there that he's basically walking into, he still is able to isolate it, which is a core tenet of how he clutches, or how anybody clutches in reality. One thing to note about that 2D game as we move on to the next one, which is against NRG, is that the fixes that he hit in group stages, the fact that he, you know, plays a little bit more, or plays in between the overconfidence and a little bit too slow, and the things that he does just in the future when the stakes are higher, brought his rate from 15% in group stages, 15%, 3 out of 20 clutch attempts, all the way up to 71% rate in the finals. And it was also something ridiculous in playoffs, though that is bolstered by his finals performance by Sentinels. So NRG versus LG. This was a banger series, 2 overtime games, 1 quadruple overtime, 1 triple overtime. We're watching the first of those maps, which is on split, and this is already triple overtime. The situation he has to go through here is a late retake through spawn by himself against 3 players. And you know, clutching is oftentimes taking advantage of your opponent's mistakes. Being able to isolate somebody in a 2 versus 1 even is usually an opponent mistake, but there are ways that you can force it. In this one, I don't necessarily think there's any forcing involved. And when the stakes are so high, when you're in triple overtime like the way that you are, you do end up making mistakes that you don't necessarily want to, and also able to take advantage of mistakes like that. This is one of those situations. You have Daps, who's stuck on site, who, for whatever reason, does not get his teammate Shanks to maybe help him. I think Daps is afraid that the guy's already out heaven or something like that, so he doesn't want to run back around pillar because otherwise he'd get stuck. In any case, you know, he's stuck there, so he goes down, Thief isolates him, and then again isolates another one, but this is really on Shanks here. The fact that he's giving up the crossfire that he maybe has here with Infinite all the way back in B main. He's swinging a little bit to the left, trying to take this fight. But the angle that Thief does take is possible to maybe clear out a lot of that backside space. And then finally the 1 versus 1. The educated read here, I think, is important, that you don't necessarily can always make in ranked or anything like that because people aren't playing with their teammates. But the fact that Shanks is back here, yes, he didn't take a crossfire with Infinite, but it does indicate that the other player might have been trying to play off of him in B main or maybe pillar, and could have gone for the walk around, but the educated guess is in for Thief that he was all the way back in B main. Of course, it is Killjoy, so potentially trying to play off mollies or something like that, but that's not the case. And Thief is able to, once again, ice in his veins, take the 1 versus 1, and win against Infinite. That was 1 versus 3 to close out the match after 3 overtimes against NRG. The first map that they played. Next map goes into triple overtime. We won't watch anything from that because while Thief, you know, I don't think Thief had a good performance the next map, but when it came to map 3, he really popped off. But in any case, let's move on to the Sentinels game. Before we move on to the game against Sentinels, I do want to touch on a few other noticeable stats that almost warrant another video entirely on its own. However, as it relates to clutch, a lot of people might immediately ask these questions. Well, is he baiting? He's got to be the last alive a lot, right? These questions typically accompany conversations about most clutch players, such as Zipnix in CS, and oftentimes you can immediately see the answer. In this tournament, Thief not only had the most amount of first bloods at any stage in the tournament, and first deaths. I scrolled through these matches looking for all the clutches, and half the time I could skip entire rounds because he's so aggressive on entries, both on defense and attack. But when he does end up in the situations we've been watching, it's explosive. By the way, the player most impressive when it comes to first bloods and entering was Mitch in this tournament from Cloud9, who had a rate of 23% of first bloods. 23% of the rounds that Mitch played, he got the first kill. Okay, so we're finally going to move into the Sentinels versus LG series, the grand finals of this tournament, and I recommend anybody go watch this match. It was really fantastic. It went to all 5 maps. LG really surprised. They played well overall, but this map on Bind was one of my favorites because of Thief. He's playing Phoenix this game, much like we saw in the game against Team 2D, and I did say that I want you guys to remember those clutches because a lot of them are very similar. Specifically, this very first one is very similar indeed. So they try the same type of thing, blaze wall to control U-Haul, and then try to take over truck, try to take over the rest of the site, and eventually they can't find the space, so they end up calling the audible and portaling. This time though, Thief has more help because a Proto is able to get through the portal and play hookah, and Stellar is going to be able to stay alive and potentially throw some smokes for him. So in any case, more time, more support once he gets to the site, but it will eventually fall to a 1 versus 3 again. One thing to note is the way that Sick is actually playing back and potentially outflanking the flanker. They knew that Stellar was coming from bathroom, so that they knew he might try to stop this portal or also take the portal himself eventually, maybe even backstab through CT spawn. Sick is there to stop that, and he actually completely outflanks the flanker. Gives the info that the other 2 players are coming from spawn, and again, something slightly reversed is the fact that the spawn players are going to be the ones to make first contact because of how late this portal is. So plants the bomb, gets into the tube, gets caught out with a dart, puts himself, by the way, in the spot that's less spammable because of the box that's behind here. So he doesn't get taken advantage of that. Maybe we'll see a little bit later spam coming and working in effect, but has a flash, flashes around the corner so that potentially a Proto could peek with him, but a Proto peeked a little too early. And the secondary thing right away that I noticed is the fact that he flashes out the same spot, but he peeks backwards instead. 2 reasons. Number 1, to get a different angle on the opponents coming out of spawn, but the second reason is to make sure that he's not going to be going down because he heard the portal and he heard and understood that Stellar was getting flanked from hookah. So if he peeks out the right side, not only are they already going to be expecting him from that side, but Sick will also be able to get an angle on him, and he's already about to pop that ult. So really nice from him. Yeah, the lineup was a little, kind of lucky, but the rest of this round just goes to a nice counter. Raze uses the ult, Phoenix uses their ult, and just face checks the rocket. You face check the rocket, trade out the actual Raze player, and it's over from there. There are opportunities where, he goes down to the rocket, doesn't kill Raze, and Raze maybe can run up on you and get an awkward position, but I think that was a solid play. I like it all around. My favorite thing about that is the flash out the front and peeking out the back after the second flash. So, okay, so final 1v3 that I'll show you, but there is still one more round that I want to show after this. In any case, this one was my favorite clutch that I saw out of the 1v3s that he hit, something like 6 over the entire tournament. This one was nice. The fact that he's cornered, the fact that he already has somebody in spawn that he's dealing with, he knows that they got shut down, so there is Shazam down long, and then, of course, the other Omen coming in through spawn. This is well played all around. Doesn't necessarily know where Omen is, but he is quickly going to be able to fight Sick right here and take advantage of him. That's probably a misplay from Sick, peeking too early against the 1 player. Taps the spike, looks to see if Shazam's going to over peek as well. He's not. Zoms is going to back off as well. Know that there's a potential for him to push through, but once again, he has the flashes. So it's really easy to isolate this because Sova is so far, Shazam is so far away, and we know that information is there. Yeah, that shows the power of Phoenix in these clutch situations. I love the molly, throwing it in front of him so he can heal. That actually does get him 20 HP, so significant. Doesn't spend the time to sit in it though, because time is everything in clutch situations. There's 2 options here from Sova. One, to come from spawn, which he's doing, or he could try to flank through mid. Thief considers both of them, but also knows that there is a gap between them of about 3-4 seconds that he can take advantage of, maybe even a little bit longer. The one thing he has to be concerned about is if he's already here, if he made a audible call, whatever. I don't know exactly how he would make this call, but if he's already in mid somehow, Thief has the last flash prepared for him, and he does the one play that will secure him the round, which is just to go to bathroom. He planted in a very interesting spot all the way down in the spawn, but the sight line is very difficult for Sova specifically to take advantage. If it's Omen, you play this slightly differently, but also has to plant off a default spot because I believe Shazam did have a shock dart still that could have landed on him. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. Cut sound once he gets in the bathroom and once again plays the close angle, just waits for the tap, walks out. There you go. My favorite clutch specifically because of the way that he played, the isolated angles, very quick. You have to take advantage of these timing situations, the things that you really have to do fast such as pushing into spawn. If he doesn't do that, Shazam might be able to find an angle where he can maybe get to his teammate, or his teammate might even back up, and then all of a sudden he has to plant on B, and they know where he is. They can isolate him. They can trap him in with the control that they have. Okay, so this round goes quick to really bad for LG. They take long control. They get a double ult connect from Sick, so it ends up being a 3 versus 4 retake. But they did not take hookah control. They did not take a lot of the space that would have been really nice. Thief does have the opportunity to flank through if he does desire to go long, but I like the triangle that they have instead. One from spawn, one from elbow, and one from hookah. This will make it really, really nice for them to work together on a crossfire here or a crossfire here. This is solid play from everybody involved. My favorite thing, though, is the way that Moose and Thief spam through the can. I mentioned the spam in the can briefly, but it gets accentuated by the fact that, yeah, Moose spamming on that backside. They're trying to stay in the middle, trying to stay away with the box like I mentioned before. But Thief finds this beautiful molly. I'm sure this was prepared from LG beforehand, and they were able to find some use of it. Bounces this molly off the left side of the can, forces them forward to where, yeah, if Moose was in position, they could actually crossfire if they swung out. But to another spammable position where they think they're safe, he finds one. That pick is brilliant. Then they have the dart coming in from Moose as well. They're able to clear out everybody in sight because it does get popped and does not get shot. And one more, run it back. They've cleared everything now, right? They spot the raise. They spot Sick at the pallet spot. And then the last player has to be long because they just cleared out hookah. They know sight is clear. Moose will clear the rest of it quite shortly too. And yeah, so they know with the run it back that is there, and it'll come down just to a 1 versus 1 here from Thief, because Moose does get traded by Shazam, but Thief is there to trade, and there you go. That was beautiful. A really nice retake that adds to the that pads the Thief clutch stats, but still 2 1 versus 3s against Sentinel in this map is already ridiculous. So you have to give it up to him. Well, I hope that I was able to do some of these clutches justice in hindsight, and also highlight a player who, while didn't necessarily go under the radar, I think is not appreciated enough for what he did last weekend, which was clutch. With the Valorant Champions Tour tournament, the VCT, starting up this week, I'm excited to see if LG can continue the form they found after clapping back from almost getting knocked out in groups without winning a single match. That was definitely a run to remember, and I think a lot of it was on this man's shoulders. Until next time, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more content just like this. Peace.